Hey everybody, Danny Bader here, and I wanted to spend a little bit more time on a subject that I spoke about a week or two ago, and it's what I see as the three dimensions of us, of ourself, and it's our self-esteem, it is our self-image, and it's our self-love. So I'll give you a couple definitions as well, give you some thoughts to consider, and then maybe some things that you can do to increase any of those three areas, or perhaps all of those three areas. I know myself, I'm always looking to increase my self-esteem, my self-image, and my self-love. So self-esteem is defined as the confidence in one's own worth or abilities. So it's really how we see ourselves in our ability to get things done. Self-image is how we see ourselves. We'll get there in a moment. But self-esteem is how can I do what I need to do, whether it's in school, whether it's in athletics, whether it's in leadership roles, whether it's in just your work role. How do you perform in those roles? How do you get things done? That's what self-esteem is. And one thing, I just did a podcast. You know, we've got a great Back to Life podcast, and it's great, I think, because of the guests that I get on there. They're the ones that make it great. But I had the pleasure of interviewing Dick Yingling. And for those of you that don't know, Dick is the fifth generation CEO, president, and owner of Yingling Brewery. And he took it over in 1985 from his father. He bought it from his father when it was only doing about 135,000 barrels of beer a year. And now it's up, I think, right around 3 million, maybe over 3 million. So it's a great story. And Dick's 78 years young. And he said this, he said, listen, you're going to make mistakes. Just don't make them a habit. And I thought, man, that quote really connects to this image of self-esteem and how confident am I that I can do things. Now, I took a look at some articles and some research out there, and when kids are going through high school and then even getting into college and even adults, the majority of the research suggests that less than 4 out of 10 people are as confident as they should be in their abilities. So if you think we're watching a basketball game right now and there's 10 men or 10 women out there playing on the court, you know, less than half of them are confident in their abilities. Now, if we get to the premier level, right, NBA, WNBA, and even college, I mean, their confidence may be a lot higher. But for most of us, the majority of us, it's a little bit lower than it should be. So a couple of things you can work on. If you feel, if when I'm saying this, you're going, yeah, Danny, I'm not as confident as I can be right now. A couple of things to do. Focus on you. There's a great story that I use of the American runner, Wilma Rudolph. In 1960, fastest woman on earth, 3 gold medals at the Olympics. But she was born in 1940 in Tennessee, African-American female. So she had a whole lot of challenges there, right? And she was the 20th of 22 children, and she wore leg braces until she was 12, and she almost died of polio. Tremendous challenges. So you think she might not be as confident, right? Because a lot of times our confidence does come from our situation. But here's what she said. She said, I loved the feeling of the freedom in running, and I love the fresh air. Here it is. And I love the feeling that the only person I'm competing with is me. So when you're working to boost your self-esteem and your confidence, focus just on yourself. How are you getting better each day at what you are doing? That's real key. Another thing is get clear on what you do well. I majored in accounting in college and I got okay grades and I didn't like it at all. And then somebody said, go be a salesperson. You present yourself well, you communicate well. And I went into sales and I hated that. You got to find out what you do well. And after I had a brutal accident when I was 28, we lost a great friend of mine, and I went into corporate America, and I was doing a job I hated with the intention of getting over to learning and development and supporting people to be the best version of themselves. As soon as I got into that, I'm like, man, this is all I want to do for the rest of my life. And then you work hard at it, and then your confidence has a tendency to build. Because confidence comes from doing, right? Confidence comes from doing. And if we're doing something that we don't like, we're not going to be doing it very well. We're not going to be doing it over and over. We may try to kind of get away from it. Another thing is, in terms of your self-confidence, have people around you that I would call your pelican posse. I wrote about that in my book, Back to Life. Preacher's a character, and he tells young Jake. There's a story where these pelicans come into a town and they just start to eat all the food there and everything else. And the town's trying to get rid of them. And somebody says, bring in wild pelicans, natural pelicans. And everybody said, why would you do that? And he said, if they come in, these people are going to go learn from them, right? So it's one thing not to compare yourself to other people. It's a whole nother thing to put yourself with good people who do what you do and learn from them. Don't compare yourself, but learn from them. Learn. Just continue to learn. There's podcasts, there's books, there's things like this. Keep learning at what you're doing. In terms of comparing yourself to other people, as I said, get off social media. There is always somebody better, bigger, business, 10 times the money, prettier. Get off social media from time to time. I know you're going to be on it once in a while, and I find myself, looking at authors and speakers and influencers, and it can beat the heck out of your self-confidence when you compare yourself to them. So get off of that. And then be vulnerable. Express your feelings. It's one of the top 5 regrets of dying people, according to Bronnie Ware, who wrote that book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. They said, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. So listen, when you're not real confident about what you're doing, it's okay to talk to people about that and tell them, and then put together a plan and get working on it. The next one is self-image, right? Now, self-image is your personal view or your mental picture of you, not what you can do, but how you show up in the world when you're doing it. That's what self-image is. It relates a lot to our intelligence. It relates to our personality. Certainly relates to our physical appearance. And in terms of self-image, a lot of times it's influenced by other people. So the feedback that we're getting from other people, as you grow up with your parents and they tell you you're stupid, well, then you're going to have a self-image of not being as intelligent as you can be, right? When we're compared to other people physically, right, then you're going to have that poor self-image there. So the thing with self-image is this. We have an image of who we are. We all have it. We also probably have an image of who we want to be. This is how I show up in the world. This is really how I want to show up in the world. That's the disconnect. So how you show up in the world, good thing is to ask other people. Just ask other people, how do you see me showing up in this world? And then think, what's the best version of me? What's the best version of Danny Bader? Then you got to have the vulnerability to do the work in that self-image. If your self-image is around fitness and physical, then you got to do the work. You got to seek some support. You got to have a different attitude towards food. You got to move more. You got to exercise. You got to get your ass out of bed early at 6 o'clock. There's a lot of people I find that are happy. Your value and your worth. Look, your value and your worth does not come from your physical appearance. Man, I wish I could just hug so many young people that haven't gotten that yet. There are people that love you for who you are, not how you look. And ask people about that. And sure, if you want to look better to have a better sense of confidence, then yeah, sure. I get that. You got to do the work for that. St. Francis de Sales had a great quote. He said, be who you are and be that well. So in terms of our self-image, for me, it comes back to our values. What do you want to live? Well, I want to live truth. I want to live honesty. I want to live integrity. I want to live health and physical health. I still want to have a cigar every now and again and a beer and some red wine. I don't want to drink vodka on the rocks like I did for so many years because that doesn't get me to the best version of myself. I had a guest, John Breen, on the podcast who is recovering now, in recovery for many years, and talks about his being an alcoholic. And he said, I just realized that when I was drinking, I was not the best version of who God wanted me to be. And I thought, man, that was pretty good. So in terms of self-image, it's how do you see yourself? And how does the world see you? And how do you want to be? How do you want to show up in that world? So ways to do that, ask people close to you. How do you show up in the world? Danny Bader, how do you show up as a writer? How do you show up as a speaker? How do you show up as a brother, as a husband, as a father, as a son? And you got to be ready for people to go, well, you're not the best version of yourself when you. And, I ask my kids, how can I be a better dad? How can I be a better husband? Always looking for feedback. How can I be a better speaker? Because that's what you want to be, right? You want to be that best version of yourself. So ask those close to you, and then you got to do the work. You got to take that feedback that they give you and break that down into some type of plan. It says, okay, the best version of myself now is moderation with food and alcohol. The best version of myself is not drinking at all during the week and just moderately enjoying it on Friday and Saturday night. The best version of myself is doing this physical. The best version of myself is communicating as a leader to my team this way. So I'm not telling them so much, but rather I'm saying, here's where we're going, right? And I trust that you have the intelligence to get there. And if you need help, I'm here for you. And I love you. The last part of ourselves, the three dimensions, right? So it's self-esteem and self-image, for me is self-love. And I think this really is an umbrella over the other two parts of ourselves. And it's the definition is to regard for one's own well-being and happiness. And I would even add there too, you know me, as those of you that know me, is happiness for me is in the moment. It's a state. Fulfillment for me is really that journey of life, right? Fulfillment are the achievements that I really desire and I envision. And towards the end of my life, I'm going to look back and be happy that I achieved those things. And I may have, I don't want to have any regrets, but I may have said, man, I should have worked on some of those other things. So self-love for me is all about my worth, my well-being, that I've lived a fulfilling life. I've been in service to others. And self-love for me is the connection to God, to the divine. So in terms of loving yourself, yeah, you're going to do it more when your self-confidence goes up. You're going to do it more when the self-image of who you are and who you really want to be gets closer, like we just talked about. And some things to do around self-love that I would encourage you to experiment with is love some people from a distance. There are some people in your life that are not a good influence on you. For whatever reason, it's how they treat you or what they say about you or how they hold on to the past and some mistakes we may have made. So sometimes you just got to love people from a distance. Next thing is really get to know your fears. What are you scared of in terms of your work and your business and your relationships and life in general? And get to know them. Get to talk about them. Get to do a little bit of research. Put yourself first. I know this sounds so tough for so many people. You put yourself first and you take care of yourself with your self-image and your self-esteem, you're going to show up better to be of service to people. And that's ultimately what we love. Listen, when you go volunteer somewhere and help somebody less fortunate than you, right, your self-love is going up. So you've got to put yourself in a good state of mind to be able to go out and help other people. If you're feeling crappy about your life, you're probably not going to go help people. So that's where you got to put yourself first and take care of it. See the simple joys of life. Man, so often we just move through life so quickly. We were out in California last weekend. Our middle son, Joey, graduated from film school last year, and we celebrated this year. So my wife, Lisa, and our son, Luke, and our daughter, Lizzie, we all went. And on the way up on Saturday, we drove up to Santa Barbara, and we were kind of along the coast there. And I was just really taking in the beauty of that state. Just the simple joy of being in a car and driving with my family. It was just the 5 of us. And then we stopped in near Montecito in Santa Barbara, and we took a beautiful hike, about a 2-hour, 4-mile hike. And just to see the flowers and the waterfalls, and there were some dogs on the hike, and they were playing in the water. Just slow down and really enjoy the simple things in life. And I think that will give you a better sense of that self-love. And then finally, in terms of your self-love, I would just encourage you to not hope in something bigger, in God, but rather trust. Trust is a much more powerful emotion. It's an expectation. Hope is, we're kind of rolling the dice. So just trust that there is something bigger. I know it for sure. My body stopped, my heart stopped, my brain and my everything, my heart, respiration. And there was an energy in me that continued on. And that energy's in you too. You know, I call it God and you may call it something else, and that's absolutely fine. It's in you. And then just take one of my jackrabbit-isms, IAGBO. It's all going to be okay. Iagbo, I call it. And just remember that things can be okay even when our self-esteem and our self-image and our self-love may not be where we want it to be. But remember that awareness precedes change. So when we become aware that it's not where we need it to be, then we can start to do some of those things I offered to you. And things can be okay, my friends, because we agree with them or we accept them. So in life, sometimes life is very, very difficult. It can be okay because we accept it. We seek the support to move through it. We develop a vision to see the other side. And we're always focused on getting more confident in our self-esteem, stronger in our self-image, and really, really maximizing that notion of self-love. So I trust you got a couple things from this to experiment with. Stay connected. Follow me on social media. Subscribe to that podcast. If I know you, I love you. And if I don't know you, I love you, because I believe that's what we're here to do. So peace. Take care.